Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, David here, and welcome back to another video. And today, this is kind of like a throwback to one of my first video that I made on the channel, comparing Atlus and Square Enix together, talking about sales and strategies for both businesses and everything. And that's one of the videos that really helped my channel when I first started YouTube 4 years ago or so at the moment. Now today's video is going to be focusing on Square Enix specifically because they said something very interesting last week, talking about their change in strategy to make sure their games do better in the future. And again, I want to compare them to a company, another Japanese company as well, being Sega, of course. They own Atlus, which is also a company that is Japanese and focused on role-playing games. So I want to compare them all together because Atlus and Sega also changed a lot of stuff when it comes to their strategy, and Square Enix is kind of doing the same thing. So let's get right into it. But before we do, if you don't know me, I run this YouTube channel mainly focused on role-playing games. I do a lot of Atlus content, Atlus news and everything, but other RPGs as well. So if you're into that, make sure you subscribe. Quick thumbs up is also a big help. Now, without any further ado, let's get right into it. And let's start by going over to videogameschronicle.com. Link to the source is in the description as always here. So I'm going to quote this article here by Chris Scullion at VGC. So Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, FF16, and Foamstars all sold less than expected, Square Enix president says. Internal targets weren't met, Takashi Kiryu reportedly said, being the president of Square Enix. 3 of Square Enix's most high-profile recent releases sold worse than expected, the company's president has reportedly said. Now, first things first, those 3 games are exclusive to one platform, right? FF16, FF7 Rebirth, and Foamstars are exclusive to PlayStation 5. Now, what we're going to do today is we're going to dismiss Foamstars because that was like a live service game and everything, multiplayer game, and the potential wasn't really there, and I don't think it's representative. So let's get this one out of the discussion. Let's focus on FF16 and FF7 Rebirth, which both of these games are arguably part of the biggest RPG franchise of all time. So it should be easy to sell a lot of copies, and it feels like the momentum for FF should be at a very high point, but it really isn't, and that is a problem. So they're saying here, according to Bloomberg's Takashi Mochizuki, Square Enix's president Takashi Kiryu told an analyst that sales of FF7 Rebirth and FF16, as well as Foamstars, all fell short of its expected revenue and profit. Explaining in more details in a post on X, Mochizuki reports that Kiryu said sales of all 3 games fell short of expectations. FF16 sales were reportedly in line with expectations when it was first released, but it couldn't keep momentum and eventually failed to reach Square Enix's total goal for the financial year. FF7 Rebirth and Foamstars, meanwhile, failed to reach internal targets from day one. And that's crazy because, again, FF7 has to be one of the biggest games of all time, certainly one of the biggest RPGs of all time. Everyone know FF, everyone know FF7 at this point. If you're an RPG fan, you might not have played FF7, but you know what it is, at least minimum. And the games are not selling. Now, again, as they're pointing out here, all 3 underperforming games were PlayStation 5 console exclusive, and as such, it could be argued that had they been released on Xbox Series X and S, Square Enix could have generated extra income from them. You can add the Nintendo Switch in there as well. Now, clearly, those games are high profile and everything. Maybe it would have been too expensive to put these games on Switch, but I think with the next Nintendo platform, clearly there's going to be a focus there, right? The plan says Square Enix will aggressively pursue a multi-platform strategy that includes Nintendo platforms, PlayStation, Xbox, and PCs. Now, this multi-platform strategy is what I want to talk about because, again, as I said before, we'll talk about my favorite publisher and developer, Atlus and Sega here. So basically, Atlus used to be the same way. They used to be like Square, where they have these high-profile IPs like a Shin Megami Tensei or like a Persona, but those games were stuck on one platform. It limited the number of people who are able to play the games because they don't own a certain platform. For example, Persona 5, which, don't get me wrong, was a huge success, was a PS4 exclusive. Persona in general, Persona 5, but other Persona releases as well, are now releasing on all other platforms. The result, Persona is selling millions. It's doing better than it has ever done before. And at this point, when Persona 6 launches, it's gonna outsell Final Fantasy 16, and that's something that if you told me that a few years ago, I would have told you you're crazy. But at this point, I believe that's what's gonna happen, except if Square keeps their word and start pushing multiplat. Another game for Atlus, which is right around the corner, is SMT5. Shin Megami Tensei 5 was a Nintendo Switch exclusive. It was announced in 2017, it launched in 2021, and now they're bringing that game as well to other platforms. And since SMT5, we have not seen any exclusive game from Atlus, and the company's been doing extremely well lately. So I'm really thinking that if Squares does the same thing, it's gonna do well for them. It's gonna go well. SMT5 Vengeance has one of the trailers for the game is one of the most viewed Atlus videos of all time already on their YouTube channel. So once that game releases on other platforms, not just Nintendo, it's gonna do insanely well. Once again, I'm not even worried. And even now, obviously we're focusing on Atlus here, but even for Sega, I mean, Sega with the Yakuza series. Yakuza used to be PlayStation exclusive. All Yakuza games were released on Game Pass and Xbox, and now it's also getting PC versions and Xbox, and it's doing well, very well. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, which released in January of this year, sold over 1 million in a matter of weeks. All of that to say, if Square Enix focuses on quality over quantity, as they're saying, that's a good. If they're focusing on their IPs that do well, like a Final Fantasy, like a Dragon Quest. Now, I would not be surprised if once Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D releases, this is gonna be a multi-platform game. Dragon Quest 12, Dragon Quest 11 was a PlayStation exclusive at first. It released on Nintendo, did super well, released on PC and Xbox, did super well. So I'm confident that they're, or at least I'm hopeful that they're gonna bring Dragon Quest 12 and 3 HD to all platforms, and I'm sure we're gonna see results. We're gonna see quick results like we saw for Sega and Atlus, and that gets me excited because Square Enix, there's no reason for a FF7 Rebirth or a FF7 remake not to sell gangbusters. It should be a huge hit right from the start, and it should keep momentum. It's sad to see big games like these, like legendary IPs like these, not doing as well as they should, because clearly the issue is not the IP itself. In my opinion, the issue is management and the way that they're doing business. So multi-platform is healthy for Japanese role-playing games. At least clearly they tried exclusivity, they tried to get a check from Sony for exclusivity, it's not working. A switch to multi-platform is the right logical move, again, in my opinion. So let me know what you guys think on this one. Is Square Enix doing the right thing by going multi-platform? I really think so. I really do. Thank you all so much for watching. You have a great day, y'all. Bye.